Hey, hey. Hey, Shorties. How we going? Can you hear me? Dear God, please tell me you can hear me A-OK. I'm going to go with yes, we can hear you. Hi, Buster. Standard Buster hello at the start of the stream. Hey, baby. Oh, and Poppy too. Fantastic. Thank you for coming along to pregame with us tonight. We can hear you. Thank you, Sarah, in shock and horror. Amazing. Thank you for welcome new members. How exciting! I reached my eligibility, my criteria, first two for memberships, months and months ago. But I was just waiting to get the viewing hours up, and with my shorts. As in my short form content, it was very hard to get to 3,000 viewing hours. Okay, guys. Hi. I love you. Can you please go sit down? Thank you, bye. So we got there last weekend, and it took a couple of days for YouTube to register it. Oh, Thomas McCarthy in Ireland. Wow. Welcome. We are international here in this Shorty land. And then finally it happened midweek where YouTube sent me the notification and said, yes, you can apply. Applied, and suddenly here we are. You can join if you like. You don't have to join, obviously. Like, you're part of this community whether or not you're in green or grey or blue. But here we are. So this is a pre-game stream, free Karen Reid. Or what is it? That prior to the Calling All Beings massive roundtable on at 7. And Mazza is coming in shortly. He's at the basketball because, sports and Mazza matter. So he's at the basketball, and he told me he will come in a little bit later, but he will be here. And then my glorious friend Katie Smith was scheduled to be on the cards. Excuse me. However, she's got a migraine, and I get migraines, so I feel her pain. So, oh, wait, let me see who I've got here. Oh, Mazza has left the basketball. Just let me finish that thought. We're going to also have, instead of Katie, who's going to be replay crew because migraines, I have my amazing friend and moderator, Miss Jessica MB, coming in to complete the trio of pre-game fun. So without further ado, though, because Jess is just still getting a little bit organized on her end, the man behind the voice, the 6'5" giant, I'd love to see you and I standing next to each other, Mazza Media. Here he is.
Hey, or good morning. I'm doing awesome. How you been?
Yeah, I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm doing great today. I'm a little exhausted from yesterday's excitement, and just watched the men's United States basketball team defeat France for the gold medal. So United States basketball does it again. So I'm very excited and very happy right now. Steph Curry, who's not a guy that made me too happy years ago when he beat the Celtics in the finals, ended up pulling it out with so many three-pointers this afternoon. It was unbelievable. So I'm just so fired up and very happy for that. And France had a great performance, and international basketball around the world is just so much more developed now than it was 20, 30 years ago. There's so many teams now with so many great NBA players. And I was happy the game was over in time. I actually set up my whole studio before I came on. I'm like, let me make sure my headset's charged, my microphone's all set up. I'm ready to go, so I can just kind of walk in the room and get on the show as soon as possible. So I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So I did hear that you were bemoaning the Australia over US women's water polo. So, I mean, it wasn't Australia that you beat today, but still it's a victory, yeah?
That's right. Exactly. I was watching that game, I think on Friday, and I was thinking of you. I'm like, well, now that I know someone in Australia, I'm like, now we got the US and Australia competing for the gold medal. And that was an incredible game. I don't usually watch too much water polo unless it's the Olympics. And it was an amazing game. Both teams were back and forth. And then the shootout was amazing. I mean, it went like 6 rounds, I think. And at some point, I kept seeing the Australian players making, one after another in the overtime shootout. And like eventually the U.S. is going to miss one here. And finally it happened like in the 6th round, and the Australian team was able to win. But it was awesome. So I thought of you. I'm like, I wonder if Miss Shorty's watching this, and like, we got the USA.
I mean, it's not a competition, Mazza, but yes.
Right.
Having said that, have you seen the stuff online about Australia's stellar female break dancer, Reagan?
No, I heard about breakdancing just today. I didn't even know it was an Olympic event until this afternoon.
I mean, based on our representative from Australia, it probably shouldn't be. Oh my God, if she's our breakdancer, honestly, too funny. I feel for her. The secondhand embarrassment is wild with that one because it looks like I got up there on the Olympic stage and did some breakdancing in a green and yellow tracksuit. So
yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I know US and Australia, though, when it comes to like us competing head to head, it's always in some kind of water sport. It seems like we're always all the swimmers, or other swimming events that you see, and it's always back and forth. It's always depressing when the Olympics ends. I'm a big sports fan, and when I see the Olympics come to an end, I get so into it over the course of 2 weeks that when it comes to the end, it's like, oh, now it's all over, and back to regular summer sports again, like baseball. So.
Yes, I mean, I'm loving this. I gotta say, and I think there's a few of my shorties in chat. When you and Mike and Mark start doing sports ball stuff, we're like, oh.
Right, yeah.
But the Olympics, everyone loves the Olympics, right? So.
Oh yeah, oh for sure, exactly. Yeah, I'm always watching that, no matter what. So it's fun to watch, and again, basketball is the biggest thing for me. It's like today and tomorrow. The men's won the gold today. The women's team is playing France tomorrow in the gold medal game. Those are always like my basketball lifestyle I had growing up through so many years of my life. So that's always the biggest deal in the world to me, is to get the gold medals. But I love swimming too. I love the swimming competitions and all this.
Are you a swimmer? I'm not a swimmer.
I grew up a non-competitive swimmer, so. In my town, nearby my town, I should say, they had a big swimming location, so we always got formal swimming training when we were kids, and just got trained up year after year after year. It was like taking martial arts for swimming when you grew up as a kid, and you just go to all these lessons. And I remember one year a coworker was complaining. She goes, "My son's so afraid of the water, and I don't know what to do." I'm like, "Well, take him down to this place where I grew up getting trained how to swim, and take him down there, get him lessons, and I guarantee in a couple months he'll be really good." And she came back to me and she goes, "This kid's just diving headfirst in the water now and swimming up and down the pool, no problem." I'm like, there you go. Once you get that training, it's important. So, yes, I was the tallest in my class by the time I was a senior. I was not the tallest in my class for quite a few years. Well, we'll put it this way. I was the tallest in my class from probably kindergarten through about 5th grade. Then one of my best friends that I ended up meeting in 6th grade came to town. He was always about an inch taller than me up until about junior year. Then I shot up over him and regained my crown. So yeah.
And boy, did you shoot up! Honestly, I commented on I replied on your tweet that I'm 5'2", maybe almost 5'3". Yeah. And my shoe size, US shoe size is 5. So I presume at your height you've got the giganto feet.
Yeah, 12 or 13, depending on the shoe brand. I'm 12 or 13. Yeah.
We would be comical standing next to each other. So the photo that I saw with you and Brian LTL was from a couple of weeks ago at another standout. Yeah. Tell us, I mean, we're here to talk Karen Reid and big things yesterday. Mostly one big thing was big tall Mazza there at court in Dedham, Superior Court. So tell everybody about your experience, because it looks like it was amazing.
It was a totally different experience than I had at any other event. So I've been to 5 events or 5 court dates in Dedham. 2.5 were primary trial dates, and the other 1.5 days were jury deliberation dates. And yesterday was the first hearing I had ever gone to. I never really head out to the hearings, and I ultimately decided, because the trial, if it does happen again, won't be till next year, that now all that vacation time I was kind of basically keeping aside for those trial dates is now available to use for hearing dates. So I decided that I was going to use one of those days off from work to get out there again. And it's been interesting. When I went to the trial for the first time, it was in mid-May. Brian Albert was on the stand, and there was only so many people out there that day. It was pretty much your casual number of people that were out there for the trial, and going to the trial is very different anytime you go because there's so many trial dates. It's every day mostly, with a couple days off, and it's hard for everybody to get out there all the time, and or even be out there for more than a couple hours at a time. So it definitely varies. When it got time to one of my favorite days was when I got to go into court because that was the day where, well, let me put it this way: when I showed up in May, nobody knew me by my face at all, and I just showed up, and everybody started to recognize me by my voice, and was like, "Oh my goodness, you're Mazza Media, aren't you?" and all that. So the second time I went, which was when I was invited into court, which was June 13th, I had not shown my face yet on the internet on any shows at all. And all of a sudden, somehow I was on Tommy's stream in the morning, and all of a sudden it was just everybody knew who I was. And all of a sudden I'm like walking around back from lunch, and I see these two great girls who I got to hang out with at another hearing day, a trial date. And they're all like this, all excited. I'm like, oh, they must know who I am now. And I find out Mike from the Young Jerks knows exactly. He's like, Mazza's in court today. I'm like, I never even told him this. I kept it so secret. But it was just so funny because all of a sudden people were like knowing who I was. I'm like, well, the cat's out of the bag. I may as well try to go on camera now. And those were great days. And this past week was totally different. It wasn't a trial day. It wasn't an all day wait for jury deliberation. It was a lot more tense on June 25th and July 1st when I was there for the jury deliberations. And it was intense. A lot of angst, a lot of nervousness, not like a stressed out nervous, but just like an anticipation nervousness. And this other day, there was like kind of none of that. It was kind of like, well, we kind of know what today is going to be about. The defense is going to talk, the prosecution is going to talk, and then basically, I almost bet you $1 million if I had it that Auntie Bev is going to basically say, I'll take it under advisement and move on. And that's exactly what we knew was going to happen. And it did. But yesterday was kind of more of almost like a rally type of feel outside the court where, yeah, we knew the hearing was going to go on, but at the same particular time, it was an atmosphere. It was an atmosphere of just like two crowds converging on Dedham yesterday and having an opportunity to stand there wearing pink shirts or blue shirts, or I always wear a red shirt. I don't wear pink shirts. I'm kind of your typical guy. You know, I always blue shirts, navy blue shirts, gray shirts, black shirts, occasionally green shirts are kind of in my wardrobe. So like this whole pink shirt thing, I'm like, I can't do it. But what I can do,
I feel like you could rock a pink shirt. Paul Christopher does.
Yeah, I know he does. Yeah.
I think it'd suit your skin tone beautifully.
Thank you. I'm like, I'm wearing a red shirt. I'm like, a heart. When you think of a heart, right? Hearts are not only pink, hearts can be red. So I'm like, this works. So.
And yeah, to me, when I was watching some of the footage on the Young Jerks in the sort of 15 minutes before court was in session, it felt a lot more vibe, like energized. There was a lot more bullhorn, a lot less sort of peaceful support, more energized bullhorn stuff. And I think that was quite an interesting shift in energy there. Did you feel the difference?
Yeah, it's a whole different world, especially the blue shirts. I had only been to Dedham one time when they were there, and there was only like 5 or 6 of them. It was the second time that they had showed up. So they originally showed up on the Friday before, and then I was coming in on that Monday, having a real big hunch that I thought the trial was going to end that day, and I ended up being right about that. I just had a feeling based on how things had gone that Friday. And they had shown up there. It was very like it's like when you're online and you're posting on X and you have your fellow people that support Karen Reed supporting you and making comments that are kind of in some degree in agreement or something that's pro Karen Reed. And when you have other people out there that read your comments or posts and kind of come against you, it's kind of a different environment on X because of that. And a lot of people don't like to go on X because of that. And I've blocked a lot of people and been blocked by a lot of people on X from the opposing side. But when they show up in person, it's been, especially because it's been so Karen Reed supporter dominant for so long, that it's kind of really been our scene. And it's kind of like when you're controlling something and then the opposition shows up. It's kind of like similar to a sport, right? You practice like in high school basketball or college basketball, you practice in your home gym. That's your gym. You're there every day. And then all of a sudden that opposing team is scheduled to come in and play you and compete to win on that court. It's kind of like that kind of feeling, which I'm very used to dealing with. I was very good at, like when I was playing in high school, I was always heckled and harassed by opposing teams because I was always one of those players that was going to score on your team all day and block your team shots and get rebounds and probably beat you in your own gym. And I would be singled out and heckled because when you're one of the top players in your team, that's going to happen. And when you're out there outside of court and you're on the pro Karen Reed side, the free Karen Reed side, and you've got these people that are showing up now in blue shirts and all that. And they're going to start to give us dirty looks. And it's a very different feeling when you see people filming you. Like when people film me on our side, it's usually because, hey, it's Mazza Media. We love Mazza Media. He's awesome. And I'll take a picture and we have a great time and it's awesome. But when you see people on the other side, one of the most notable people, I won't say her name, but she was there yesterday, I should say. And, she said
the one the pizza joint or the one there front and center
outside the court. Yeah. Yep. They're filming us yesterday, and I had some people bring to my attention that one of the particular people that's, I'll say Kim Fair, basically. I'll just say it. Apparently it was brought to my attention that she was filming me and others yesterday, particularly, and trying to get video shots of us. And someone said, yeah, she was aiming the camera right at you, dude, for like a couple minutes and all that. And I got people giving us dirty looks. A lot of us, I ended up going to the Registry of Deeds first because the parking lot is behind the Registry of Deeds. So when you walk up and walk in front, the Registry of Deeds is right there. And so I'm like, let me greet the people on the Registry of Deeds side and hang out here for a bit. Then I'll cross the street at some point and make sure I greet everybody over there. So you get all these people in blue shirts gawking at you from across the street. We're gawking at them too. And I kind of waved and everything to them like this and said hello. And they're all giving us dirty looks. And I was kind of looking around like who is out there for them. And you saw the guy with the big heavy guy with the brown hair that got in some people's faces was there. And Jen McCabe's older sister was there. And Kim Fair was there and a few others. And then eventually you had people like Jen McCabe show up, Lindsay, who was the one that basically has charges against Turtle Boy, was there.
Fake victim, yeah.
Yeah, the fake victim, yeah, to put it nicely. And then Plevin showed up, Rob DiPietro showed up, a few other notable faces over there had shown up. And a lot of them were gawking at us, including my favorite guy on their side, Grandpa Eclipse, Peter Hennessy, old-time tough guy. Who was over there, and he was like gawking at all of us, and he stared me down. And when people stare me down, I like to stare right back, and I looked right back at him and played the tough guy game too. And eventually he looked away, and that was fun. It was nice to see him. He's one of my favorite people on their side, and I mean that sarcastically, of course. So.
I'll just pause for a moment there, Mazza. We've got Miss Jess, who has been backstage just for a little bit.
My like Mazza and stuff are really like cut up. I don't know if I need to change my iPad or something. Hang on.
Well, mute yourself while you sort yourself out and sort yourself out.
Mute yourself while you sort yourself. So check yourself before you wreck yourself. Yeah.
Plevin, interesting. You got the scoop again, Mazza.
Oh yeah.
That was wild.
Oh yeah. It was he was there, and he was very not like I would say, the blue shirts were not directly combative yesterday. They were more like basically counter protesters from a distance all day. So they were like when Turtle Boy spoke on the Registry of Deeds steps, they were countering him. And Plevin came over, and he came over, and he did not seem to be really combative, as he ended up proving to be online throughout the next hour. Yeah, right. Yeah. In the hours that followed, he went right back to throwing the insults and everything. But there was none of that out of him yesterday. He came over to say hello to Dina. I kind of made my way over, and I kind of joked with him. I don't really like to escalate conflict. I'm usually the kind of person where if someone conflicts with me, then I'll start to take, I'll kind of start to respond slowly, like with Grandpa Eclipse. If you're staring me down, I'm going to stare you down back. If you start to talk smack with me, I'm probably going to give it back to you. But if you come over and you're really not starting none, then I'll kind of let you slide a little bit. And I kind of started in with a nice little light joke on him, which was, "Hey, Plevin, I said Kevin to be nicer to him. I said, "Hey, Kevin, are you joining our side again?" And he goes, "No, I'm just coming over to say hello." So he started to kind of talk with us, and he didn't really give me any indication if he knew who I was. I know he's
everybody knows who you are, Mazza.
Yeah,
Come on.
right. He called me a grifter one time months back on X, and he's been vocal about our boy Mike from Young Jerks, and
Jelly.
attorney Mark Betterow. Yeah, he's been kind of vocal about all of us to some degree. But I didn't know if he knew me by facial recognition or anything. But he came over, and my attitude was I'm going to have a casual conversation with him. I'm probably going to be just kind of asking him some questions that were meant to kind of really test his knowledge and really at a high level type of questions I was going to ask him to see how he'd handle them, and then kind of counter him from there. So he came over, and he was friendly with me. Most people told me not to be a fool for that. As we saw, he was kind of combative again online this morning.
He's the ultimate keyboard warrior.
He is, yeah.
YouTube form. Mm.
Oh, for sure. There's no question about that. And I had I asked him the first question I asked him, because we were talking with him, Dina was, and I said, "Hey, Kev," I go, "You were a Karen Reed supporter, or not maybe a supporter, but you believe she was innocent initially. Is that correct?" And he goes, "Yes, that is correct." So I wanted to kind of get that out there right off the bat when I was speaking with him, because to me, when I see him as an individual, the most intriguing thing I find about him is the fact that he eventually at some point had actually believed that Karen Reed was innocent. And I think that if I was going to converse with him, that the ultimate talking point that I do want to have with him would be basically to talk about that. Because we had Boston Mike. I was on Tommy's CPU show with Boston Mike just the other day. And
I'm going on Tommy tomorrow morning at 9.
Oh, great.
Actually.
Oh, great. On. Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's awesome. It's going to be a great time for you. Those guys are great. Tommy and Mike are the man. So, yes, I had talked with them, and I asked Mike, who knew John O'Keefe, and I asked him, I go, "What was your initial reaction?" He goes, "Well, I only really knew for that first year what the media was saying, so he really had nothing to go off of that would have suggested that Karen Reed was innocent." So that was very intriguing to me, because it tells a big story about the general public, is that when you only get to see what the news is telling you, and they're not really giving you that additional data or information, then it's very tough for the public to kind of say, "Well, I don't think she did it," when there's only so much to go off at that time, especially when Turtle Boy was able to get out there and get information out to us and kind of say, "Hey, look, this is information that's come out. These are facts that we've vetted. We're presenting it to you." And I said, well, a lot of people out there, probably more than likely initially, from a public, no local news media perspective, probably would have been more likely to swing that, "Oh, Karen did it, and there's really nothing to really debate about it." So it was interesting to me that he was initially someone that had been believing Karen Reed was an innocent individual. And that's why I wanted to ask him that question to start.
And he didn't bring his giganto microphone. Not that would have helped you. Very phallic. And then I had to have a little giggle when Brian slid in with the "Do you believe the earth is round?" And yes, and he was trying to be all Plevin was being all respectful, thinking that maybe Brian thought that maybe Brian was a flat earther, and so he didn't want to be like rude in person. That was great.
Right. That took me by surprise. So I was sitting there, and I had asked Plevin my question, and he started to answer, and he started to ramble on. And at the time, it's not on camera, but Brian's kind of looking at me like this. He did that about 3 times. Like, "Do you believe these responses you're getting?" And I just wanted, like I said, Brian loved my question. He goes, "You asked a great question. You had kind of, really made a great point." And people started to call him like a flip flopper and all that, really question his credentials, because he had flipped. So I guess essentially you can call him someone like the people out there that have flipped sides at one point, even though he probably had never officially been a true Karen Reed supporter. He was probably more of a Karen Reed theorist that believed at some point that she was innocent, then flipped. So he gave me all these reasons for why he flipped and all this and all that data. And I just don't agree with his ideology. and I just respectfully don't agree with it. I just don't see how anybody with a logical mind, which he claims to have, would be able to or so susceptible to believing that she was now guilty. And then I was gearing up to ask another question. I was right on the tip of my tongue, and all of a sudden Brian goes, "Do you believe the Earth is round or flat?" Whatever he said to him there, and I'm like, damn, Brian, you're going right in on this, man. I'm sitting there, I told him about it afterwards. I was kind of playing like the de-escalation type of questions, kind of keeping it cool. And all of a sudden Brian just comes in like that. I'm like, damn, man.
It was like you were the warm-up crew. You were the fluffer for Brian's
Yeah,
heart.
I was, exactly. I kind of pitched the first couple innings, and then he came in as relief and just kind of took it. I told him afterwards, once Brian kind of took the conversation, which was, I wouldn't say Brian was escalating for argument. I would say that he was escalating in a sense that was kind of leveling up the conversation to a higher level by asking a question that was a little bit more detailed about the way he theorizes things, computes physics, for example, and basically asking a gauging question. I personally feel that I do believe that Brian did raise the I wouldn't say tension, but the battle of the minds, for example, in terms of like really drawing the line and saying like, what do you think in a blunt sense, and how could you possibly come to your logical way of getting that kind of conclusion? And I feel like when Brian was asking that question, it was a big question that was kind of, in a sense, not directly related to the Karen Read case, but indirectly related to how one computes the information related to the Karen Read case by getting his understanding of physics answered. And that's why Brian said to him, I'm asking a serious question. And he was, and I think that Plevin kind of took it as like a slap. But I do think that Brian did bring a question that was a hard-hitting question, which was basically, what do you think and how could you possibly come to this kind of conclusion? And Plevin immediately got defensive, didn't like he started to use his tone of voice as an excuse and kind of that's when it really started to kind of escalate. But Brian followed it up reasonably, though, by saying that, well, this all kind of relates back to the ARCA experts. The ARCA experts are federal people that are extremely well versed in assessing crime scenes and coming to logical conclusions on these particular types of scenarios. And Plevin immediately kind of went into the fact that he just didn't believe in ARCA or anything that they had to say, which goes back to Brian's ultimate point. Do you believe the Earth is round? Do you believe the Earth is spheric? And if you believe that and you believe the science, then how do you not believe the science of what the ARCA was saying? So Brian very well layered a two-part question to Plevin, and I thought it was very good questioning.
I thought it was very clever questioning. It was almost Alan Jackson or David
Yeah.
It was strategic.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just thought he was trolling. I actually just thought he was trolling Plevin for a minute there. I couldn't see that. And then when it was laying the foundation for the next pertinent, relevant question about the case is establishing his belief in physics and like science and stuff. And then, bringing it in. Let me see if I got Miss Jess here.
Sure.
Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Solo.
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, this week has just been amazing. Hi, Mazza. Nice to meet you. Don't worry.
Hi, nice to meet you. Great to be on the show with you. Happy to be here.
Thanks for stepping in at the last minute, Jess.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
What's your feeling about what happened yesterday in the outside or the inside of court in Dedham Superior Court yesterday?
I mean, I'm one of those people. For people who don't know me, I was in 760th EOD Army out of Fort Drum, New York. I was in Afghanistan 11 to 12 when it was really, really, really bad. Mm-hmm. Actually, the anniversary we just had of hi Sherry, of extortion 17. I remember that day because I just put in our what's called a sit rep. Basically, I was putting in how many casualties and things like that we had the night before. And so I wasn't a FOBIT. I'd go to COPS, I'd go on missions and everything else. So, but about the ARC guys, like I was in the bomb squad unit, so we had people. My friends and myself are alive because of the ARCA people, because of it's called an MRAP, and I'm gonna show pictures eventually because I have pictures of blown up MRAPs and the fact that you see somebody, like, people getting out of it, because to be quite blunt, I did see people not get out of it, and it was because they didn't have the upgraded ARCA seat restraints and things like that, and would not want to put that on anybody. Just like I said, I'm very blunt, but that is why it enrages me so much that, like, because that's so personal to me. Like, I'm alive because of ARCA. Like, and if and people need to probably look more into the two experts that were on the stand. They have the longest list of credentials I've ever seen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I like to do a lot of stuff. I'm into a lot of different things, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like, the amount of knowledge that these people have. And I will say this, I'll try and not say a bad word for YouTube. If you have somebody who is smart enough to figure out what it takes for a vehicle, and these are very heavy vehicles, and a variable of 100 to about 1,000 pounds of boom, like IDs, and be able to figure out the engineering and kinetics or bio, sorry, whatever it is with the body.
Jess.
Yeah, physics. Sorry. If you can figure that out, the variables, because they varied every single time, and be able to figure that out and be like, okay, we're not sure what they're going to hit. They're going to hit something. Let's make sure that we have the right science to make sure that they're safe and that they make it through. Like, that is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So really then the not to diminish in any way the work that the crash daddies did for the feds, for Officer John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, but it was kind of small potatoes in comparison to their capacity and what they can accomplish in their designing, like, more than just a cannon. So wow, so it's funny how well, not funny, it's interesting how people relate personally to so many different aspects of this case and this trial. Mazza, what is it for you? I know you've told your story a bit about how you came on board and how you followed Turtle Boy for a long time, but what really grabbed you?
I don't like corruption. I hate it with an absolute passion. I don't like when people abuse their power and try to push somebody around. And for me, anytime I tend to get the most intense when I'm talking about this, it always seems to root around that kind of stuff like that. I don't like people being pushed around. What went on in Canton at the select board meetings with what they've done to their townspeople just gets under my skin. The way they weaponize the system to throw Turtle Boy in jail. These are the kind of things that just absolutely agitate me and fire me up and really make me want to start to step in. Oh, and one more thing. Jessica, thank you for your service, by the way. I just want to thank you for your service, Derek.
The reason why I joined is because my brother was, unfortunately, he died in 2012, but he was in a wheelchair, and he was meant to smart, but just his body didn't work. And unfortunately, he was killed by his nursing home. So I'm all about, yeah, it was awful. Anyway, sorry, TMI, but it was my honor. And I have had a lot of opportunity. I've been able to do a lot of good with things like with fundraising and things like that. And really into the mental health space as far as veterans go, because there's so much more that can be done. And so, but if you don't like corruption, we'll have to chat, and you can come to Chicago and listen to all the shenanigans.
I've heard plenty of stories about Chicago for sure. I've heard the stories out there. I actually have a friend that lives in Chicago. He hated the city so much that he moved to Nevada. That was pretty much his story about there. He hates everything about that city and just everything that's gone on out there. And I heard it's been pretty dirty out there.
It is. It's nuts.
Yeah, for me, I think similar to you, Mazza, the corruption, the dark, seamy side of what pretty clearly was corruption and like just darkness. I felt for me the fact that they didn't come out of that house in 34 Fairview, when that for me was my main like what the fuck moment. But I think once trials started, it was the corruption and the seediness of it all, that and the injustice of it all. Like I just couldn't and still can't fathom. I was speaking to Will the Glairer last night, and I mentioned to him then that there was a period of about 3 weeks where I had absolute, like almost night terrors about the predicament that all of this disgusting darkness and corruption had put anyone, but anyone, Karen Reid, in that position. It really bothered me. So Mazza, was it mostly a big picture corruption thing for you, or did you then hone it into how can that disgusting corruption turn on one woman?
Yeah, I hate that. And additionally for me, it's also about the fact that town politics, I've had experiences with town politics, town cliques, people that are just well connected to certain people and have the ability to just kind of really run wild in their towns. I grew up in a town where the baseball league was extremely political, where certain people were fathers were coaching their teams and their kids were, maybe their guys were cops and their kids would be all-stars in the league. But yet I was batting I think I had a batting average of over 600, 700 as a 12-year-old and was knocking home runs out of the park and was probably the best out center fielder in the whole town, and got left off an all-star team because kids that had fathers that were coaches in the little league team were actually getting picked to be all-stars when their kids were batting less than 300, and I was absolutely dominating when I was a 12-year-old. So I kind of saw that stuff at a very young age, where there was kind of
like base, like right from the beginning of just communities where that favoritism and select, it's disgusting.
Right. And I dealt with some of that stuff throughout my life in sports too, where it was just like I saw certain people that were getting more minutes on our basketball team in high school that maybe weren't really good enough to be out there that much, where players like me were able to kind of dominate, but yet they'd be out in the court with us and making mistakes and holding our team back while other people were sitting on the bench a little bit longer. So for me, like for my upbringing, those are the kind of things I saw when I was a kid. And I saw certain people that were on the team and, just affiliated with cops in town and all the favoritism that they got. And kind of another thing for me was I kind of saw that same kind of thing in Canton. I said, these are the similar types of people, except the people in my town were just doing it because they just wanted their kids to play sports. But in this particular town, there was a lot more to it. And there was a lot more being used for that. And these are the kind of things that kind of get me riled up. I'm like, oh, this is kind of hit me a little personally, because I've seen people like this before, except these people are a billion times worse. And whatever power they're abusing is far worse. And it has nothing to do with a bunch of little league baseball or high school basketball sports, which is all really just mediocre things or minor things compared to a police officer being murdered inside the house, his body dragged and left for dead, and a woman who's extremely professionally successful as a professor is then blamed for this murder. It's absolutely outrageous, without a question about it. And when I saw this happening, I'm like, I couldn't believe the stories I was saying. And come to find out, people knew people who helped them, did favors for them. It's just, these are all allegations, of course, but this seems to me a much more realistic possibility than a college professor who had no history of crime, had no history of violence, had no history of any kind of outrageous tendencies to do something like this, no road history, no vehicular road rage history, but yet all of a sudden, this is the person that's being tagged with this. And I've said this before, you don't see any kind of violent history from Karen Reid before. You don't see any violent history from Karen afterwards. Her family are very nice people. They're very loving people, compassionate. I mean, I was filming the walk into the court yesterday, and Mrs. Reid, right on camera, it's on my channel. Mazza, how you doing? It's just that's exactly the way it is. These people are really wonderful people. Her mother is the most wonderful woman on the planet. If my own mother wasn't my mother, then I would hope that my mother was Janet Reid. because she's such a wonderful woman. Same thing to be said about her father. They're just wonderful people. If your own parents weren't your parents and they were your parents, they'd be wonderful parents to have. If they were your aunt and uncle, they'd be wonderful, aunts and uncles to have. They're wonderful people, or even next door neighbor. And these people are very compassionate people. Karen is an extremely wonderful person. I don't sense, and I said this before, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant here, but I'm an extremely good judge of character. And I hate to sound, I don't want to sound arrogant when I say this, but I've met a lot of people in my life.
Me too.
I've seen personalities, and I can tell, like, I'm not talking about people that are just like shady. I'm talking about, I can tell when a person's like extremely volatile and someone you probably shouldn't trust at all. And when I ran into Karen and I met Karen, I felt that way, that I was talking to someone that was extremely an honest person with great integrity. And she was who she presented herself to at face value and behind the scenes. And I think, some people talk about her reactions to things in court. I think it's just passion. I think you have an individual here who's being put in a situation where her whole freedom's on the line. She's been blamed for a murder that she did not commit. She was the only one that did anything, according to her own words. On multiple occasions, she said that. And why wouldn't she be sitting in court and be upset and be reactionary when her defense team gets up there and cross-examines and makes great points? And I love her because of that, because I'm kind of the same way too. When I'm sitting in court, I was kind of reacting the same way. I'm kind of, I'm like that myself. It's how can you not? If you're an individual with a functioning brain and you're in Karen's seat, how can you not gloat a little bit when it's like, see, I've been saying this for 2 years that I didn't do this. We just had a cross-examination done on this particular individual, and our defense team just exposed them that this whole thing is an absolute fraud, and I didn't do it. That's why you see her look back at her mother like, Dave,
hey,
case in point.
Sorry. Can I interject about regarding Karen? So I'm a prior loan officer, and Karen obviously worked in the financial services area. So what people also don't talk about is the fact that you have to go through, at least myself, I don't know how it is in Massachusetts for exactly what her job was, but you have to go through background checks. You have to go through so much stuff. Like, I was bonded in 19 states, and someone had stolen my identity and while I was deployed and was on the run or whatever. And so I had to literally fight for my background check to go through, even though I'd already had one and had a clearance and stuff like that. That stuff stays on your like your background check and stuff like that. And because she's in a fight, because if she was to go back to that job, she'd be in a fight, fiduciary responsibility role. And so that is huge. So not only are they messing with her life, they're messing with her health too, because she lost her health insurance. And then also like her job, and I would love to sit down and talk to her. She just seems brilliant. And I just that's one thing that makes me so angry. It's like, ugh, I hate when people lie. And I'm like, you guys think that you're going to get away with it now. Can't wait to see when everything just opens up, which I'm a firm believer that it will. And I'm just so proud of Karen. And I want to come up there, I think, for whatever happens in the future. Because I also have ties to the Sandra Birchboard case too. So, small world.
Yes. It interests me, though, back to the grassroots sort of corruption and favoritism. It interests me and perplexes me that people who are unable to fathom large scale, systemic corruption in at a local government or a district or even a statewide level, don't have the capacity to make that link. That's how things, from little things, big things grow. Yeah. So if the people who were running the Little League team back when their kids were young end up in as perhaps, I don't know, Canton board town selectmen, that's just absolutely ingrained in their way of being and operating. And so if you've seen that on any level, that to make that link isn't, I don't think, too hard. What do you think, Mazza?
Yeah, it's easy to relate to. I think that when you're looking at small town stuff here, and I think that's another reason why maybe a lot of people are feeling the same way. If you've ever grown up in a town where you've seen like, politics, all that, everyone's kind of dealt with that to some degree in their lives where they can kind of relate to that. I'm not saying that's everybody's point of origin of interest for this, but that was kind of one of my relatability levels here, was kind of just seeing that kind of stuff go down, and just seeing people that were in a clique essentially, and this is talked about by Rita Lombardi at select board meetings all the time. Rules for certain people have certain protections, certain rules apply to them that don't apply to everybody else in the town. And you saw that in the select board meetings over time, going back over a year now, where townspeople are starting to come to those select board meetings and take on the town and challenge certain aspects of the town and say, hey, basically, there's something wrong here. Um, you know, that's what the way it's going is they're sitting there, and you have people in town that are now coming out publicly and validating that there's a larger concern here. And I think initially when all this started, it was basically Turtle Boy's breaking the case here. He's making it public, what Karen Reed's gone through. And then all of a sudden, all these offshoots started. People in the town of Canton stepping up that weren't expected to. No one really ever expected that there would be townspeople going back a year now that would suddenly become vocal and say there's issues in this town. All of a sudden, for quite a while there, those select board meetings and to some degree almost became the primary piece, even sometimes even bigger than the Karen Reed case at times, because it was so much in the core of what was happening in that town that a lot of the answers that we were all seeking were really being fought inside those select board meetings by people like Rita and Sean, Whitey, Jen, and many others that were vocalizing problems in that town. And what have we seen over the course of this past year? These people are being flipped off in public. They're being screamed at in public. They're having bleach balloons thrown on their properties. Dennis and his wife talked to them yesterday, talked to Dennis at least, had their yard vandalized. Rita had a yard vandalized. Jen had a yard vandalized. And these are the fruits of what's going on in that town, is that these people like Rita and company are saying there's a problem here, and look at the way that they're all being treated as a result. They're being threatened. They're having letters written to them that are threatening to them, telling them to shut up. And we're all sitting here for the past year like, well, Karen was framed and there's a cover up and there's powers that be that collaborated or corroborated a frame job against her. And then you're looking at the town and you're seeing the select board and all these other people out there treating the townspeople this way, members of that town, residents of that town, treating people like Rita and company this particular way. And if they were wrong about anything they had to say, then why are they being treated like this? No one's coming back to them in a lovingly fashion saying, Rita, Jen, look, like, that's not what's happening at all. And we're sorry you feel that way. That's not let's sit down and have a conversation. I don't want you guys to ever walk away thinking that these are the kind of things that happen in this town. We don't want you to think that the chief is bad or whatever. There's never that conversation going on in that town. Instead, it's Chief Rafferty going into select board meetings, taking on the whole town, Chicken Farm Charlie, yelling at people in the town. You're embarrassing yourself, Jen. You're embarrassed. That's the response all the time, because these people that are being called out by folks like Turtle Boy, folks like Rita, Jen, all of them, they're exposing them and they don't like it. And the only way they can respond to folks like this is to lash out at them. And that's what we've seen. And that's what's only made people like me and many other people lock in further and engage further in this overall saga that's gone on.
I don't know if everybody here, I presume mostly everybody here has been watching, even if not for a year, but in the recent times, the select board meetings as they've gone from 5-minute community comment to 3-minute to 2-minute to Zoom to no comment. Brandy Churchwell's 13th Juror podcast, if anybody hasn't been following along, her most recent episode, number 26, has a really good sort of condensed version of the highlights of what's been going on in those meetings in recent weeks and months. So if anybody hasn't followed along, it's wild. It's wild. And there have the fact that the select board and, you know, is it Mike Loughran, Lucky's brother, is that his name? That he doesn't have, or none of them have the awareness or the appreciation to the look that they're giving, not just the community, but the state and the country and the world. It's just outrageous.
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. Like, so obviously I have experience with a lot of different people, and I'm always like, are you not embarrassed with yourself? You not understand the fact that you anyway, sorry. I just it's unbelievable to me how they're representing their town.
Like, I personally pride myself on being, probably to a fault, hyper aware of how my actions and my words make other people feel and how they reflect on me as a person. And so that's just a personal sort of one of my sort of core things, to have these fools, these clowns up there, like running a town with, you know, and dosing out tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even sometimes millions of dollars to contractors and things, let alone Elena Rafferty, and not listening, being absolutely unwilling to listen to the outrage and the uproar that's coming from their own people who are paying those the monies that they then don't. I know they don't make much money themselves. I think the select board members make $1,000 each a year, and the head honcho it's $2,000. But still, like, goodness me.
I don't know if I did wonder about regarding like the fiduciary duties that they have, because I'm wondering with the select board how if they have, I don't know if anybody knows this, if in the rules that they have laid out, if you're in a fiduciary duty of spending money, like how, like, and I'm talking about like Chris Albert, I guess he was having a lot of tax issues.
Yeah.
How on earth did that fly? I mean,
Right.
I get it.
It's why
there's
there's a disconnect between what they're doing in their personal lives and how they're operating themselves publicly as the select board, and then the expectations, basic things.
In this select board, you know, if it's such an issue, public comment is such an issue for this select board, you know, and they want to give everybody 3-minute time limits, a 15-minute time limit for the whole town to speak. Why don't they take an opportunity to have a special select board meeting where all these issues are just addressed on their own? They always want to hold people to time, and the reason why they don't is because they're afraid, number one, and number two, they're not gonna give in to anything the great people of Canton want anyways. So they figure, why bother? They just want to let that 15 minutes go by. That's it. And what happened this past Tuesday was an absolute farce. Their second virtual meeting for their second consecutive meeting in a row. I was in the second to last select board meeting. I was in attendance for the second to last select board meeting that they did prior to the one where Jen O'Donnell was accosted by a Canton police officer, by my observation. And then you see them doing virtual meetings. And last week, there were some callers that came in and did a really great job at basically handing the select board their own, back to them. And this particular week, I noticed that they were very particular in the people that they allowed to be callers on their show, which was people that seem to have more pro McAlbert, pro select board views, pro Canton police views. And then eventually it took a while for them to eventually get around to other people. Rita did say that she did not raise her hand to speak. She was in virtual attendance for that meeting, but did not raise her hand to speak because she just felt it was, I believe she said it just wasn't worth her time perhaps, but I don't want to quote her.
She also said that it was actually draining her and disheartening to her.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, she was a guest this morning. This afternoon for you guys was 5 a.m. for me on Nurse Kim. So after this stream's over, after the whole night tomorrow, if you guys need something to watch or sometime, put it in your list of things to watch. Read her on Nurse Kim for a couple of hours, and she's amazing. So yeah, she definitely. She has mentioned before that she just needed a break from speaking out because it's taking its toll on her, which is just to think that Rita, she's amazing. She's such a reckon with that it's getting her down a little bit. No, it doesn't change her stance, but it's wild. She seems like she is such a strong woman, so it is so depressing to be pushing shit uphill, really, in this town. But interesting with the number of people allowed to make comment. I found it interesting to hear that when they had that vote to have the police audit, that they had the high school state basketball stadium instead of the usual location.
Right.
And I think the vote was something like 902 to 800 something votes for and against. That was a tough, that was a tough vote.
Yeah, 903 to I think it was like 600 something, 700 something, or whatever it was. And yeah, the select board absolutely butchered that thing intentionally as well on them, which was absolutely insane. I want to see the count. What's that, Jess?
I said I want to see the count. I'm very into numbers and things like that, and I like to do deep dives on numbers, and basically I used to work on fraud and risk, so I could pick up on things that most people would miss, and yeah. I want to see those numbers.
Speaking of things,
is there a concern you have about the legitimacy of the vote result? Is that what you're?
No, I mean, kind of in general. I should say in general.
It was 903 to 800 was the exact number. I just got the official number. 903 to 800.
Counts. When good old Jim, and this has been a concern of mine. When Jim was pulling out the numbers for the alternates, yes, back on when the trial had ended and they needed to choose the seated jurors versus the alternates. So it turns out that, and I wasn't aware of this, that Alan Jackson wanted to see the numbers and Jim scurried away and wouldn't show the numbers because, but in my experience and understanding of choosing the seated jury in other trials, and it makes more sense to me as a fair way to do it, is that you have all the numbers, and to me that's questionable, but all the numbers in the barrel, and then you pull out all 12 seated jurors, and the remaining ones of however many extraneous jurors there are, they're the alternates. It's odd to me and suspicious that they pulled out the alternates, and then, that's that. What are your thoughts, Mazza?
Yeah, it's I think that maybe they had something to do with the fact that there was a juror that had said that they had seen somebody laughing. Not laughing. That was the juror. I'm sorry. Juror number 3 had seen the juror that had not been happy with Karen laughing and smirking all the time in court. And she overheard that and reported it. And it seemed to me after that, there was I thought that I was actually happy that they selected beyond 12 jurors. But I thought that going up to 17, in some sense, was not suspicious, but maybe a little bit of an eyebrow raise of something I didn't expect. I thought maybe they might go with maybe 2 extras or 3 extras would have been sufficient, but they went with 17. And then all of a sudden you see juror number 3, who had outed another juror for their comments on Karen Reed, which was a negative one, and then come to find out juror number 3, who I've seen in person, was I mean, you're there for a matter of minutes. You can tell that woman was very wide-eyed and focused, and you could tell. Like I walked away from that saying, this particular woman, if she hadn't been a juror and she had been someone like all of us that just found out about the story organically at some time prior to the trial, she probably would have been wearing a Free Karen Reed shirt and a pink shirt and standing outside holding a sign, hanging out with us, because she certainly seemed to have that kind of vibe. In this particular manner that I saw. And sure enough, I was there when I was in court on June 13th with Karen's family. I was in there for 6-7 hours, and it didn't take me, and not that I was blatantly like staring down jurors to kind of assess them, but when you're looking to the right, when Lally speaks, Jackson speaks, Yannetti speaks at that podium, they're I mean, they're just right there. I mean, it's like my background behind me. When you're looking at me, if I'm Jackson or Lally, they're just right behind me, just like Mazza Media. They're on both sides of them, just like my logo, and you can't help but look at them. And you're going to make eye contact with them unintentionally. It happened a couple times. One of them, I was looking over and just happened to see they were looking at me, and we made eye contact randomly. It's just, that's the way it is when you're in there, because it's so small, and they're just right there. And overall, that juror just seemed to be expressive enough that it did not take me, in my mind, time at all to say, oh, she's a pro Karen Reed vote. Just Machado, Saar had the same, Turtle Boy, same thing. And to me, I felt like she was blatantly singled out and poached from that jury pool.
Yes. Jess, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, my brain. Sorry, my ADHD, guys. I have ADHD, and it's kind of all over the place right now. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. We're just talking about the jurors being selected or eliminated.
I like the fact that blatantly obvious things that keep happening, and like it just continues, is just, I've never been blown away by a judge so much in my life. Like I don't, again, you're there to oversee everything. Like, I always think that, what is this going to do in the future for me? You know, like, when people see this later on, what am I going to be known for? Like, it is so sad. It makes it, honestly, sometimes I like want to cry, because it's like, you know, she shouldn't be sitting there. You know, she should be driving her Lexus off, you know, living her life and everything else. And on top of that, she never got to really grieve John. You know what I mean? Like, it's just this whole case, and this is why I'm so glad that, and I appreciate you guys putting up with me joining the stream.
You're awesome, Jess. You're awesome. We're not putting up with you at all. You're awesome. We love having you.
I really appreciate you guys, especially you, Mazza, and Miss Shorty, because, you know, we're like a family. You know, I don't watch TV anymore. Certainly don't watch court TV anymore. Yeah. And you know, I said this in your stream a few weeks ago, Mazza, when you were giving everybody an uplifting, you know, Mazza moment motivation.
Mazza motivational speech, yeah.
You know, this is providing people with mental health help, like, because you don't know what people are going through, and this may be people's only outlet to other people. And since we're all, you know, we're joining together for a great cause, and because you never know, it could be any of us, you know, and it's like, it kind of gives me hope, with my own stuff that I deal with, that, you know, if push comes to shove, I could be like, hey, Miss Shorty, can we get on the stream so I can talk about this stuff, and, you know, hopefully get assistance in my area that I, you know, hadn't gotten or whatever. Because I'm so happy for Karen and her family. I am so happy for her, and it makes me so happy seeing her parents and stuff like that, because that's how it should be, you know. Like, and, you know, they're very close, and I'm sure this has not been easy for them, and it's, you know, it's just amazing to me, and I'm so jealous that I'm not in Massachusetts for this stuff.
FOMO is real, Jess. The FOMO. Imagine me over here in Australia going.
Yeah. We'll have to do a fundraiser or something to get you into the US for round 2 or whatever. We'll get you here.
Right.
I'm moving to Canton.
I said I'd move to Canton if Rita became mayor.
Love to. I've got my Boston accent down pat, mostly. I can say.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Right?
I'm here. Park the car.
There you go. That's it. You're all set. That's all you needed.
You're all set.
If you can say that, you're good.
Are you? Did she ignore you, Mr. Higgins?
Back to Cat.
Scott, no good. Was that a good Boston accent or not? Scott's
I'm
laughing.
impressed.
I mean, it's all I listen to, y'all. I can do a couple of accents, but obviously I've so deeply buried myself in all things Massachusetts
Right.
months that it's only natural. And I find myself practicing when I like walking around the house practicing certain turns of phrases. So just roll the Darcy, what do you mean? What, for shock and horror?
We're going to take you to Fenway Park to watch a baseball game.
The difference is in Australia, and I've explained this before, so the Australian accent is, and me also, quite a lazy accent. And in Boston, you need to say words in with a Massachusetts accent. I have to really open my mouth up wide, which is ugh. So like pa, like it's the
Is that why Jim McCabe looked like she was barking?
possibly
when she was on the stand?
or yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I don't. Yeah. That gave me nightmares.
I saw her in person for the first time ever. It was
God.
it was intriguing. Yeah, she was there yesterday. Yeah, so she was there for a couple minutes, then gone, and that was about it. Yeah.
She had to see her fan club.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Her sister was there too. Her sister had a run-in with Rita Lombardi at one of the select board meetings a couple months back, and that was ugly.
How is Jill? I do have a question. Because I forget. How's Jill Daniels or Raisin connected to everybody else? I forget.
She is the aunt. Her sister Julie Albert is Brian Albert's. If I'm getting this right, if I'm wrong, someone correct me. Yeah, right. Her sister is married. Jill Daniels' sister is Julie Albert, is married to Brian Albert. If I get that right, I think that's it.
Yes.
Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's it.
Julie Albert's married to Chris Albert, and so she's Brian Albert's sister.
Yeah, there we go. Jill Daniels, Julie Albert's sisters. I thought that's what it was. That's how I had it memorized. So I was going to the memory bank, and that's what was in there. So yeah.
She seems like she needs to spend some time in jail.
Yeah. So she's
and rehab.
I'm gonna disagree with jail. I think Arkham Asylum in Gotham City, with all the other Batman villains, is a more appropriate place.
Well, I mean, actually, we have a under, like, here in Chicago, we have under Lakeshore Drive. It's called Gotham City because you go down there and your Bluetooth cuts off. You'll get lost and things like that. So she could be dropped off there and nobody would see her for a while.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I got that wrong. Yeah, she's Chris Albert's wife. That's right. Because I was saying to myself, I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, she's Colin's aunt, so that makes more sense. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, Chris is.
We need a board with all post-it notes
and
red.
We're gonna go on the 13th juror.
Done one.
We do. We have it on. Brandy Churchwell has one actually. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I love her.
That's right. I confused Julie Albert for being Brian Albert's wife, but she's Chris Albert's wife. That's right. I tend to forget some of these people after a while.
You probably forget poor old Nicole Albert because she is the downtrodden.
Yeah.
It's poor.
She definitely needs assistance to. Yeah. Anyway. I'm not. Yeah.
Blink, Nicole Albert. Blink twice slowly if you need help. Like, seriously.
The first thing I saw, I was like, oh, yeah. Yep.
Same. You know, if you know, right, Jess?
Yep. Right. 22 seconds. Apparently, that's the goal. 22 seconds of Brian Albert.
Yeah.
What?
So many butt dials.
Oh yeah, many butt dials. You know, that's the way it is.
Just not to go too risque, but I thought you were saying that was his like run time before.
Yeah, I mean, I said 30 seconds in Turtle Boys chat the other day, but 22 seconds is that's a good for, I wouldn't be bragging about that.
That's plenty of time to have the conversation you need to have.
Oh yeah, for sure, because Brian Higgins' lawyer had a very important conversation with him standing right next to him in like 10 seconds. So
that was hilarious too when the inference was that Higgy straight up said that 22 seconds wasn't long enough to have any sort of a conversation of any import, and then literally within the same session in court, his lawyer straight up said, yeah, 10 seconds is all I need to have a conversation about his ability to testify to things on the stand. It was wild. It was hilarious.
Crazy.
This conversation will only need to take 10 seconds, Your Honor. Really? Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure. All these things that even though we have the benefit of watching and rewatching and discussing and watching commentary from people like Mark Betterow and the Young Jerks and
Lord,
so all of those, Lord Addy, yes, all of those things, regardless of the fact that the jurors did not have that ability because they were not allowed to discuss anything until they were sent back to deliberate. I just can't fathom the fact that in their mind there wasn't some mental stack of doubt, the buffet of doubt just piling up in their heads. It makes no sense to me, and I'm sure all of us, that wasn't screaming from inside their brain, that stack wasn't falling over and spilling over into their deliberations. What do you think, Mazza?
Yeah, it's just all wild. Everything that's just gone on with this whole thing. It makes me just sit here and when you hear things like, okay, well, we wouldn't really talk about much in 15 seconds in a butt dial, but then in court you have his attorney basically saying, oh, it's only take 10 seconds. It's stuff that happens right in front of you that just says, there you go. There's another inconsistency in what they've said here that's basically exposed this whole thing as not what they're trying to make it seem. And by there, I mean the Commonwealth, the Canton police, the state police, and anybody else affiliated, that this does not make sense. Nobody butt dialed. I have not accidentally butt dialed or pocket dialed anyone in a long, long time. I think the last time I accidentally called somebody.
You can butt dial me, Mazza. It's okay. We'll be friends.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Yeah.
The last time I accidentally called somebody was, I think that I had texted them and I accidentally hit like their initial at the top of the screen and the call went out. I just ended the call and they called me back like, hey, did you need to talk? I'm like, no, I'm good. I just accidentally dialed you out. Like, that's the last time. One time in, I don't remember the last time I've done pocket dialed or accidentally dialed someone in years, quite honestly. But how many times in a single night? I mean, really?
I wanted them to give like a. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it was the butt dials, maybe one or two, but the butt answers and the butt recalls, like to back and forth to each other. I mean, my job, I often am moderating it when I'm at work, moderating on channels and on my phone and multitasking, slipping my phone back in my pocket. And I have actually, yikes, one time I went on an accidental pocket butt block of people in the chat. I blocked or timed out about 5 or 6 people. Like,
it always happens because the chat's moving so quick, and you go to select the one, and all of a sudden you're selecting, and all of a sudden the chat goes up again, and all of a sudden you block the wrong person. It's like, no.
Bad. But yes, so it is possible, but it's only if you don't lock your phone out, which I would do. I would just like be doing in the chat and then put my phone back in. So to actually these days with an iPhone, as gone over ad nauseum by Alan Jackson with a couple of witnesses, the steps you have to take to make any sort of butt dial, let alone a reciprocal butt answer on the other end, and then a butt callback, wild.
I wanted them to show the class exactly how that would have happened, like exactly what position they were. No, let me rephrase this. What clean for court activity they were doing, and show us exactly how that the butt dials happened. And yeah, sorry. That's I'm like, well, okay, yeah. Prove it to us.
Can you have us illustrate how you guys were butt dialing?
Were you? I mean, was there a video involved? What the heck?
Right.
Sexy
what
time.
An interesting night for these people. I tell you, had people that were just doing all kinds of things all night long, going to police stations, military bases, butt dialing people, and it was just what a wild, unimaginable evening it was truly in Canton on 34 Fairview Road and beyond on that particular evening.
About Brian Albert throwing his phone on the military base. This is another thing that people didn't
Higgins.
talk about.
Brian Higgins.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I mean, Cocky is Proctor, so they're all the same. There's a investigative corps called CID. So if I was trying to root around with some of my friends who are like in CID and see if they know anything. It's like, because you throw your phone on a military base or whatever, and you're already, he was probably already under, some way, shape, or form being watched, because yes, military bases are heavily cameraed. So I was trying to reach out to some of my friends under CID and ask them if they would be able to, somehow pull that information or whatever. And anyway, I'm still rooting around for it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get an answer.
I just back to that again, and I don't. Maybe we should put our tinfoil hats on now, but
Hold on. Sorry, no, I was joking.
I was like, are you providing them, Mazza?
Oh, there we
go. But everything. I mean, we could literally go on for hours and just either in dot point or great detail all the things that would have been reasonable doubt, that mountain piling up in the jurors' minds. So there has to have been someone who was a stealth juror. There has to have been. I mean, I know they.
I bet they're watching Mazza.
Yeah.
I know they were acquitted. They acquitted on counts 1 and 3, but it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense, Mazza. Please make it make sense. How did they have any doubt? Well, any not doubt on those lesser included charges?
You mean the jury? How would they have doubts or less charges?
Please make it make sense for all of us, Mazza. You are the voice of reason. You are voice daddy. You are the man in court, outside of court.
Well, I'm going into this case. I'll start here. I felt like they had to. I felt that the jury, whatever I'm going to start with count 1 and count 3. Whatever they decided on count 1, I thought they were going to decide on count 3. Yes or no, that was it. And I felt that was how it's going to go. They're going to basically be like, okay, 1 and 3 go hand in hand, and that's that. That was pretty much what happened, right? Not guilty and not guilty, according to the defense. They were on all of those as well. And that's exactly what it ended up coming out to. And that's where I kind of looked at it there. Now, when I looked at count 2, I said to myself, that was the one, and I actually called this before it even came down to it. I thought that was the one where there might have been a little bit more of a wiggle in terms of would the jury be as not necessarily unanimous or not, but I thought that they would come out to a unanimous verdict on it. But I thought in terms of jury deliberation that they might get a little bit more caught up on it, right? So then, you got, so basically, let's just summarize here. So she's charged with second-degree murder, count 1. Manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle while under the influence. Okay, that's count 2. And leaving the scene of an accident resulting in the death, right? So in my mind, count 1 was she's charged with second-degree murder, right? So if they say she's not guilty on second-degree murder, then charge 3 is leaving the scene of an accident resulting in the death, which is count 3, right? So basically, if she didn't commit murder, then she can't be charged with leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. So to me, hand in hand, off the whatever. Count 2, manslaughter while operating a vehicle under the influence. So this was an episode that I actually did a special on my own channel, which was about her alcohol level. And I felt that might become more of a dispute, at least during the deliberation process. And what's funny about all that was, even though I thought that, I never even thought for a second when they were constantly gridlocked. I never even thought that maybe they were stuck on count 2, because I'm sitting there thinking they were gridlocked on all 3 charges like everybody else. And then when that came out that it was count 2, I'm like, oh my goodness, I kind of thought that that'd be a charge that was up for debate. So the problem with her alcohol level is that it's not properly measured, because it was an estimated blood alcohol level that was estimated back to that particular time.
They have to base it on, yes. And they don't know that time. 12:45 they put it as, I think, that they did their calculations. Last drink.
And the problem is that they don't have an accurate count of what her blood alcohol level would have been based on the amount of drinks she did consume, that they could have possibly properly estimated her blood alcohol level back to what it was when she had left, 30 on her way to 34 Fairview, rather, dropping off John from the waterfall. So that's why I get back, just to rewind it a little bit, just to kind of make it make more sense. They can't properly count. And I said this, and Attorney Mark Betterer agreed with me on the Young Jerks. They don't have any evidence that was presented in court by the Commonwealth that shows how many she kicked back that day. They don't show how many she kicked back at CF McCarthy's prior to arriving at the waterfall. So they're saying, oh, we think she consumed like 8 or more drinks, which is way too much for anybody of that body weight, regardless of gender or whatever. If you're that size and you drink that much alcohol, I mean, you're going to be blackout drunk. I think 0.07 is the legal limit. 0.08 is the legal limit. In Massachusetts, they're claiming she was 0.26. That's blackout drunk. She wouldn't have been able to walk out of the waterfall bar, and it would have been John O'Keefe driving her and him down there if that was the particular case. It makes no sense at all. So I argue that she had drank that night, but she did not get drunk. And she only had so many drinks that particular night, to the point where whenever she dropped off John, that they did not properly measure how many drinks she had. The Commonwealth, during this case, never really took the time to sit there beyond saying what they thought she had consumed. They never got down to the physics of it. Well, we believe she was this drunk. We believe she consumed this many drinks. Well, why don't you show us on the security camera footage at CF McCarthy's and the waterfall, because she was drinking in public that night. Let's be honest with ourselves. She did not drink behind closed doors that we're aware of. She was in public that night. There's video footage and security footage that could have been subpoenaed and obtained, but yet that's never there. So if you think that she drank 8 or more drinks that night, or you think she drank as little as 2 drinks that night, then why don't you furbish that information and show us clip for clip for clip what she drank. LML Bunny is claiming that they did. I don't recall them doing that, unless I missed that.
I know, I saw that. They showed, I mean, Bukaki narrated that video, but I didn't feel like the narration lined up with what happened on the video. And also the receipts that they retrieved only showed a couple of drinks, and certainly not wild. Unless she went home and like literally guzzled a bottle of vodka when she was back at One Meadows. And
so I'm gonna challenge it, and I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna challenge it. So I have a response to that, so that they can show her drink 9 drinks all they want, but now I want to see those drinks being poured. I want to see what kind of alcohol she had. I want to see, maybe I missed this footage. Maybe I don't know if I'm a little bit less educated than I should be on that particular thing, but I'm going to argue this in detail. Show us that she was that drunk. But even that, how can they say her blood alcohol level was that high? It would be, I know Olivia's in the chat and she can help out.
Olivia.
Yeah, what's going on, Olivia? But what I'm saying here is that they're going to show her drink 9 drinks. Did she have a seltzer water? Did she have a soda?
What?
What does it speak to your? Wait, what was the thing? It's the crime scene spoke to him. What does the footage speak to you, Mazza, regarding her drinks?
I didn't see anything enough that would tell me that she was drunk at all. That's what I'm saying. I didn't, and the fact is, if she had drinking all the alcohol, the commenter's saying she would have been walking out of the bar blackout drunk.
And across the board, the testimony from everybody there, whether they were pro or anti Karen in the witnesses, said that she didn't seem overly or outwardly or messy drunk, and she would had to have been visibly drunk and stumbling.
Yeah, that's right.
At that time. Yeah, right, Sherry. All of that doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter because John was never hit the car and Karen's car never hit John. So it's a moot point, really. Wild.
Yeah. Can I say something real quick about that? The evidence, all of it should be thrown out. All the stuff that was riding around for 3 weeks, and this is what I've said before. I want to see if the taillight that was found, the 8,740 pieces that were found, are actually Lexus OEM parts.
Exactly. I mean, they all
It's like who verified that? Because those taillights, I've had a Lexus. Those taillights have specific things because Lexus is extremely they're all about safety. All about safety. And those would have some type of serial number, some type of whatever, because it's specific to the car. And if anybody called in that had a Lexus that had a taillight that was missing in the 100 miles of that accident, of the quote unquote accident that didn't happen, I want to know that too for an insurance claim.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things we want answers to that are rather suspicious, aren't there? Oh, I mean, all right. Well, guys, we're coming up to, what is it, 7 p.m. your time and 9 a.m. my time. And I know that we scheduled this one early so that everybody could pregame and get ourselves in the mood for the giganto roundtable that's about to occur on a channel called Calling All Beings. And I'll put so that's going to be Kim, Attorney Betterow, Mike from the Young Jerks, Sean McDonough, and Peter Murphy. And then all the people from
Nurse Kim's on that, I believe, as well.
Yes, Nurse Kim. So
should be blacked out.
Amazing. So I guess Jess, did you have any final thoughts before we sign off and let everybody head on over to the main game, to the headliner?
Again, thank you. I'm embarrassed because I'm a techie, and today it just wasn't teching, and I'm so sorry. I really appreciate you letting me come on here as my first YouTube live stream that I've been on probably like 5 years. And Mazza, it was so nice to finally meet you. We'll be friends, don't worry. I'll ship you pizza because I would never want to eat D&E pizza.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to be friends, and you'll get your order, and I'll ship it to you.
Sounds good.
I really appreciate everybody. I mean that seriously. It's an international family. Like, we all have new friends, so that's something to take from this. And I appreciate everybody. And yeah,
Thank you so much. No, thank you for coming on last minute, just because you were a lifesaver. As I said at the start of the show, Katie messaged me just before the show to say she had a big, heavy migraine, and so I really appreciate you coming on last. And as for tech issues, have you seen any of my streams, Jess? I think you have. We've had robot, we've had distant microphone, we've had it all. So your tech issues and my tech issues, I think it's just part of the short gang. Mazza, your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are, we're just going to keep pushing along for Karen here and backing each other up and continuing to be an unwavering support group for Karen as well as each other. And we're going to continue to stand tall. And Miss Shorty, I thank you so much for having me on your show. I know I had you on my show before, so we're 1 for 1. So we're all happy to do shows together. And Jess, nice to meet you. I had a hunch that I recognized you because I've seen you comment on a lot of my posts, and I said, I bet
you're Mazza Daddy.
Yeah, oh yeah, Mazza Daddy.
I think you cut it out. He's gonna think I'm a creep.
Right. Excellent. So, yeah, I think if you just Google, to everyone, I think if you just Google "Calling All Beings" on YouTube, you can find that channel. Calling All Beings. I think,
and he's a veteran too, which I appreciate. Obviously.
Yeah, he's reached out to me. I'm going to be out on a show on the 24th.
Yes. And thank you. Okay, well, thank you. Well, I'll do a bit of housekeeping, and thank you so much, Jess. Thank you, Mazza. I'll catch you on the next one. I'll probably see you in the chat in 5 minutes. 1 minute.
Sounds good. Take care.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Now, thanks everybody so much for the gifted memberships. It's so exciting. I really appreciate you all. Let me get that all up and say. So we had Ernie, Queen Bee, Canada, Sarah and Shock and Horror. Sherry became new members. Nick Francis, thank you so much for the super sticker. LJ, welcome to Shorties. Scott McGuinness asked me what were our shorties called. Where there's little shorties and big shorties, so 2 different levels. I'm going to have some members only streams coming when we've got a few more members in. But that's that. Thank you so much, Pilgrim Shadow, for your $20 super chat. I didn't. I think that Jess's dogs are Belgian Malinois, maybe. Shepherds. She trains dogs, so she has a very much a love of dogs. Thank you, Sarah in shock and horror, for gifting out 10 memberships. Sherry D for gifting out 10 memberships. Mandolin Wind for gifting 1. Sherry again for 5. Mandolin again for another 1. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, Misadventurous Bookmouse, for your super chat. And also Sherry D for another 5. You guys rock. Thanks, Shorties. Love your work. We've got at the moment 5 custom emojis, and hopefully I'll be able to add in some more today that I've got ready to go with all the new members. So thank you all, Shorties. I'll catch you on the next one. Calling all beings. Just Google that in YouTube. Just search it in YouTube and you'll find it. Or go to Nurse Kim's Twitter. She's got a link there or a mention there. Bye. I'll see you on the next one. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning with Tom CPU and Boston Mike for me. Love you. Thanks, Shorties. Mwah.